About 4 years ago, I think it's almost 5 years ago now, I had a guy that I was in a mastermind with, and he's like, you know what, that's unique. He's like, I don't really know anybody else that's on TV. He's like, why don't you show other people what you're doing? And at the time I was super busy. We were building this big co-working space. My wife was pregnant. We were building a house here in San Diego that became a disaster. And so just a lot of things were going on. And he's like, just kept like, we'd meet every month, and he just like 2 or 3 months in a row, he's like, dude, I think you have something. Why don't you just show people what you're doing? So I was like, all right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give this a shot. So I called my media guy, Drew, and I said, hey, Drew, if I were to show people what I'm doing, I have 8 or 10 scripts at the time that I knew that worked well, and then a bunch of things that I'd done that didn't work as well. I feel like kind of semi-perfected our formula for TV, meaning the right shows and the right stations. The layout of our commercial, the way we did things, like we just had like kind of like a franchise-like system, I feel like, worked for us that, hey, if it works for us, why wouldn't it work for other people? So I reached out to about 8 people that I knew that would be good for TV, meaning that they had businesses that I knew they could handle the leads and all that kind of stuff. And so I called them up, and I actually called about 10 businesses. 8 of them said yes. So I had a pretty high success rate with that. So I gave them my data, showed them everything. Drew helped on the back end doing the negotiating media buying. We put the scripts together for them. We basically did 95% of the work for them, as opposed to just giving it to them and not knowing whether they were really going to work it or not. And they started getting the same results that I got the first month, doing deals the first month. Like, it was crazy. I was really concerned because I'm like, all right, we're launching these 8 people. They're trusting us with their campaigns. I didn't really charge them much, really anything to do it. It was kind of just a test project, and they just started blowing it up. So that's when I was like, all right, we got something here. So that's when I started kind of promoting it to the public, showing people that we could help them dial in a marketing campaign that not a lot of people were doing. And just to give you an idea, 2015, I joined Collective Genius. There was only one other person in 2015 in Collective Genius doing TV commercials. I joined Investor Fuel in 2020. Same thing. There was only one person in that group doing TV commercials, and they ended up moving over to us because we could get them a lot more ad space. And so even to this day, 4 or 5 years later, based on like people now knowing that TV is a good lead source and us promoting it and showing other people that it's a possible lead channel, there's still a lot of people that aren't a believer in TV. Like, for instance, the guy yesterday, he's crushing it in his little market. And I even asked him, he goes, well, I don't know if I want to do TV. I think it's just going to be too expensive for us. He's like, we run pretty lean. And I said, I'm curious, what do you think TV costs to run in your market? And he knows TV is a good lead source. He's already told me, he's like, I know that you guys crush it. I know other people that are crushing it. And he's like, I bet I have to spend at least 10 grand a month in my market. And he was surprised when I told him, I'm like, your market's not that big. You can spend 5 grand a month and get like 600 commercials a month. And so because of that, because people think that it's too expensive, because people think it's just branding like I did back in the day, because people don't know how to do it, we're really the only company that does what we do. So if someone goes and tries it on their own, there's so many parts to it that it's just a huge barrier of entry. So for that reason, not many people do TV. So that's the advantage of people that actually do TV commercials. Want to get motivated sellers that nobody knows about? Introducing 10x TV. If you want to create credibility in your market, find deals that nobody else knows about, and crush your competition, you need to check into TV commercials. It is the new buzz in the real estate investing industry since we introduced it several years ago. I've been using TV commercials myself for the last 12 years, and it's absolutely crushed it. So if you want to learn how to get on TV and to do something that little to no people are doing right now, go to claimmymarket.com. Again, that's claimmymarket.com. We usually only work with 2 investors per market, so if you're interested, reach out to us and book a call to see if you can claim your market before anybody else does. Now back to the show. I'll give you at least 2 things that I feel like could be good takeaways. One is, if you're not in a mastermind or you don't have coaches, those are the things that have really helped me kind of think differently, think bigger, and also just get support. The first 10 years that I mentioned to you guys, where it was a big struggle, masterminds were really a big thing back then. So luckily, if you guys are listening to this, masterminds, you can find them online, you can find them in person. I mean, there's plenty of masterminds to go to and be a part of. One of the things that really shifted me in 2010, about that same time when I was kind of hit rock bottom that first time, was finding a coach that had a business that ran without him. And that's kind of what inspired me, even though the coaching helped a little bit, but it was more just like the 4-minute mile kind of thing, where I didn't know that running business to run without you was possible. So just being around other people that are doing bigger things that you go, wow, I didn't realize that was possible. Or wow, this guy is, I thought I was doing well, but this guy really has something else figured out that if I maybe just had a conversation with him, I can figure out how he did this or that. So what it comes down to is support, coaches, masterminds, those kinds of things. I challenge people also just to figure out how to be smarter. So there's smarter marketing. Obviously I mentioned TV. There's smarter hires, and that's not necessarily looking at just the price of a person, but what they're going to bring to you. And I could do a whole masterclass just on hiring, because I've made all the mistakes over the last 23 years almost possibly make. And I still continue to make those every once in a while, but I feel like I've slimmed that down just from the lessons I've learned. I think just the mindset thing, just knowing that there's going to be ups and downs. You and I, before we hit record, talked about seasons and how sometimes it's nice to have the winter season, because then, it makes you more grateful when the sun does start coming out and the leaves start turning and, all that kind of stuff. So just realize that, things aren't necessarily permanent, and if someone's going through something rocky, you're just one decision away from completely turning around where you are. And really anything's possible. I mean, if I looked at 23 years ago when I started in 2001, my goal in 2001 when I first got started was to have $1 million worth of properties by the time I was retiring, like retirement age, like 60 or something like that. I did that in the first year and a half or something like that, right? So many things are possible. Like Tony Robbins says it well. He's like, people way overestimate what they can do in a day, but they way underestimate what they can do in a decade or even in a lifetime. So yeah, I could just keep going on and on with lessons I've learned over the last 23 years, but just realize that everything's a mindset. And I'll leave you with this, a quote: the person that thinks they can do it and the person that doesn't think they can do it. Henry Ford kind of butchered that a little bit, but basically if you think you can do it and put your mind to it and surround yourself with the right people, and things will happen. If you guys are interested in, TV commercials, we only sell usually a couple spots per market. So if you're interested in seeing if your market's available still, 10xtv.co. Yeah, you can book a call with us and we're more than happy to help you out. Got a lot of good stuff on YouTube. If you search Tony Javier TV, you can find me there as well. But yeah, I hope I, inspired some people with some different things and provides